There was a time when we were not the only humans on Earth. Beyond the light of our fires, other human species walked through frozen valleys, hunted beneath ancient forests, crossed mountains, and raised their children beneath unfamiliar stars. They were intelligent. They made tools. They cared for the injured. Some may have created art. And when our ancestors encountered them, they did not meet animals. They met other humans. But today, every person alive belongs to a single surviving species, Homo sapiens. So where did the others go? Were they defeated? Did the changing planet destroy them? Or did they never truly disappear at all? This is not simply the story of how humanity survived. It is the story of how one kind of human became the last human alive. The world we know is biologically unusual. More than 8 billion human beings live across the planet, yet every one of us belongs to the same species. But for most of human evolution, this was not the case. Our evolutionary branch separated from the ancestors of modern chimpanzees roughly 6 to 7 million years ago in Africa. What followed was not a straight march from ape to human. It was an expanding tree. Branches divided. Some flourished for hundreds of thousands of years. Others vanished almost without a trace. More than one kind of human could exist at the same time, each shaped by a different environment and a different history. Homo erectus had already traveled beyond Africa long before our species appeared. Neanderthals occupied Europe and Western Asia. Denisovans lived somewhere across the vast landscapes of Asia, although much of what we know about them comes not from complete skeletons, but from fragments of bone, teeth, and ancient DNA. On the island of Flores, a small-bodied human species called Homo floresiensis survived until approximately the period when Homo sapiens reached that region. And in the Philippines, the remains of another mysterious relative, Homo luzonensis, show that the human story was even more diverse than we once imagined. This was not a planet waiting for us. It was already inhabited. When Homo sapiens began expanding across the world, we were the newcomers. Our species emerged in Africa around 300,000 years ago, during a period of dramatic environmental instability. The earliest Homo sapiens were not kings of the planet. They had no cities, no agriculture, no written language. They lived in small groups and faced the same dangers that confronted every other human population: hunger, injury, predators, disease, and a climate that could transform familiar land within generations. Our bodies were not especially impressive. A human being without tools is slow compared with many predators, physically vulnerable, and poorly equipped with natural weapons. We have no claws, no armor, no powerful jaws, but evolution had given our ancestors something more flexible than any single weapon: the ability to adapt behavior faster than the body could evolve. A stone point could become a spear. A hide could become protection from the cold. Pigment could become a symbol. A sound could become a warning. A memory could become a lesson passed to someone who had never faced the original danger. One human alone was fragile. A connected group of humans could store knowledge across generations. And this may have become one of our greatest advantages. Not simply intelligence, collective intelligence, the power to place knowledge inside other minds. For much of modern history, Neanderthals were portrayed as primitive failures: heavy bodies, low brows, brutal creatures destined to be replaced by a superior species. That image is increasingly difficult to defend. Neanderthals survived across difficult Eurasian environments for hundreds of thousands of years. They controlled fire, manufactured sophisticated stone tools, hunted large animals at close range, used natural resources with detailed local knowledge. Evidence also suggests that they cared for individuals who survived serious injuries, people who may not have lived without help from others. They were not stupid. They were not unfinished versions of us. They were humans adapted to a different world. Their powerful bodies were well suited to cold conditions. Their brains were at least comparable in overall size to ours, although brain size alone does not reveal exactly how a species thought. And evidence associated with Neanderthals includes pigments, ornaments, and other behaviors that complicate any clean division between a creative Homo sapiens and an uncreative Neanderthal. The question then becomes more disturbing. If they were capable, adaptable, and intelligent, why are they gone? As populations of Homo sapiens moved beyond Africa, they entered territories occupied by other humans. Imagine the first encounter. Across a river, you see smoke. Footprints mark the mud. A figure appears between the trees. It walks upright. It carries a weapon. Its face is unfamiliar, but unmistakably human. What happened next? There was probably no single answer. Some encounters may have ended in avoidance, some in violence, some in exchange, and some in intimacy. Genetic evidence shows that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals had children together. Major periods of interbreeding occurred as modern humans expanded through Eurasia, roughly 50,000 years ago. Today, many people with ancestry outside Africa carry approximately 1 to 2% Neanderthal-derived DNA in their individual genomes. Different people carry different fragments, meaning a much larger portion of the Neanderthal genome survives collectively among living humans. Our ancestors also interbred with Denisovans. Some living populations, particularly in parts of Oceania and Asia, carry Denisovan ancestry. One extraordinary ancient individual discovered through genetic analysis had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. These species were different, but they were not always separated by an impenetrable biological wall. The human family tree is not merely a tree, it is a river system. Branches divide, meet again, and exchange parts of themselves. So when we say the other humans disappeared, we must be precise. Some of them may have become part of us. Survival is not always decided by who is strongest in a direct confrontation. Sometimes, it is decided by the size of the network behind them. Neanderthal populations appear to have been relatively small, and in many regions, isolated from one another. A small population is vulnerable. One harsh winter can kill experienced hunters. One disease can remove parents and children. A shortage of suitable partners can reduce future generations. A failed migration can erase knowledge accumulated over centuries. And when groups are isolated, an invention made in one valley may die there. Homo sapiens may have developed broader and more connected social networks. Materials sometimes traveled across long distances. People could exchange tools, information, partners, food, and strategies with groups far beyond their immediate families. This creates resilience. When one group fails, the network can preserve what it knew. When food disappears in one region, information from another may reveal where animals have moved. When someone invents a better blade, knot, trap, or method of sewing, that innovation can spread. A larger network does not require every individual to be a genius. It allows average individuals to share extraordinary amounts of accumulated knowledge. This may be the deeper secret of Homo sapiens. We did not need to solve every problem alone. We became skilled at connecting the minds that could. But human competition was only one part of the story. The world itself was changing. During the last ice age, temperatures and rainfall patterns shifted repeatedly. Forests expanded and retreated. Grasslands moved. Animals changed their migration routes. Habitats that had supported generations could become hostile within a relatively short period. Neanderthals had survived previous climatic changes. They were not helpless before the cold. But survival is rarely determined by one disaster. It is determined by pressure accumulating over time. Shrinking habitats, fragmented populations, low genetic diversity, competition for food, new diseases, repeated waves of newcomers, and occasional interbreeding that absorbed individuals into a larger population. Researchers still debate the importance of each factor. There is no universally accepted single explanation for the disappearance of Neanderthals. Demography, climate, competition, and assimilation may all have contributed. Perhaps Neanderthals were not destroyed in one final war. Perhaps their decline was quieter. One community disappeared during a winter. Another joined a Homo sapiens population. Another failed to find enough partners. Another lost territory as new groups arrived. A species can vanish without a single moment that looks like extinction. It happens family by family, generation by generation. Until one day, no children are born who belong entirely to that disappearing world. Did Homo sapiens kill the other humans? Almost certainly, some encounters between human groups involved violence. Humans compete. We defend territory. We fear outsiders. Our own history makes peaceful contact impossible to assume, but there is no evidence for a single global extermination campaign. No prehistoric army marched across Eurasia with a plan to eliminate every other kind of human. The truth is less cinematic, but more powerful. Homo sapiens may have changed the demographic balance simply by arriving repeatedly in larger, interconnected populations. Even without being dramatically stronger or smarter, a population constantly reinforced by new migration can gradually replace smaller, isolated communities. Imagine two flames. One burns brightly but stands alone. The other is connected to a line of fires extending beyond the horizon. A gust of wind strikes both. The isolated flame has only itself. The connected flame can always be relit. The other humans are no longer walking beside us, but they have not been completely erased. Their DNA survives in living bodies. Genetic variants inherited from ancient populations have influenced aspects of immunity, skin biology, metabolism, and adaptation to different environments. Their legacy is written inside people who may never know which fragment came from which ancient encounter. Every one of us is entirely Homo sapiens. But the history of our species includes moments when our ancestors met other humans and formed families with them. We carry evidence that the boundary between us and them was never as simple as we imagined. The last surviving human species
We carry the story of humanity within us,
perfect isolation.
tracing back through
We are
thousands
also
of
the result of
generations.
contact,
They are not
movement,
gone. A part of them
exchange,
lives on in us
and
today.
mixture. We often tell evolution as a victory story. Homo sapiens survived because we were the best, the smartest, the strongest, the inevitable rulers of Earth. But evolution does not produce inevitable winners. Our survival may have depended on countless fragile advantages, broader alliances, flexible behavior, repeated migrations, cultural memory, and chance. Had the climate shifted differently? Had our populations remained isolated? Had one ancient disease spread further? The last human alive today might not have been us. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: we did not conquer the world as solitary heroes. We survived through connection, through knowledge passed from one mind to another, through communities capable of rebuilding what individuals lost. Today, only one human species remains. But when we look into the human face, we are looking at the final living branch of a once crowded family. A family whose lost members still survive. In our tools, in our questions, and in the ancient fragments carried within our blood. We are not the first humans. We are simply the last. How we got here. The story of humanity is only beginning.